Hi everyone, and welcome to another speed paint video. So for this video, I am using Ohuhu for the very first time. Okay, so I got these brands just because recently they released a pastel marker set and I really wanted to get them. But I said, why would I get the pastel if I don't even have the other colors? So one day on Amazon, I bought a lot of them. So that day I bought the fine liner set that they, I think, just released or just had for a little bit. And I bought the skin tone set because I always tell young artists to really invest on skin tones first. And I also got the 120 set. So in total, did I spend more than $100 on these things? Yes, I did. Now the next question is, do I really need these markers? No. I financially, technically I shouldn't have bought these. I have enough markers, I have enough art supplies. I don't need these things, but I've always wanted to use them. Every time I go to a convention, I always bring my Copics and my Prismacolors, and it's kind of stressful. Like, I always think that I might lose my most precious items, which are my alcohol markers. So finding alternative and cheaper options that I could use for conventions would be amazing and great. So I decided to invest on this brand after seeing so many positive reviews. I decided to go all out and buy as much markers as possible so that if I do conventions again, once COVID is out of this world and we're able to handle it in a better way, in a better light, especially in America, I can bring these instead of my more expensive brands. Now, is this going to be a review on the marker? Not entirely. It's more of like my first impressions. I want to make sure that whatever I'm using is a pretty decent quality, and if I am referencing it and telling other people that it's a solid option to use, I want to make sure that my advice or my recommendations are as authentic as possible. So whenever in the past a young artist asks me what would be a good brand to get for a first-time artist with alcohol markers, I do bring up these markers. I do bring up Ohuhu, but I always tell them, according to other artists, I've been seeing a lot of great reviews. According to their videos, it looks really good. So now after this video, I can finally say, oh, based off of my experience with Ohuhu, I recommend these markers. And I think I am going to recommend these markers in general now, especially for younger artists. They actually work really well, and for those who don't know, I'm also using their Ohuhu marker notebook, which is actually really nice. The paper is really nice. The colors, they do bleed through, but they don't bleed into the next page unless you really layer the ink. What I also really like as well is that you see the little dots on the left hand side, or the inner part of the page. You can actually rip out the pages if you really want to and use them outside of the notebook. I think that's a really nice addition to have, and a really nice kind of part about the notebook. I don't know if I'll ever use it, but if you're someone who, let's say, gets really irritated when you're drawing on the side of the notebook where the height of it is getting in the way of your palm and you feel a lot of tension there, you can remove the pages and pull it out so you're a little bit more comfortable. I think that would be my only critique with the amount of pages that are in the notebook. When I was sketching out these characters in preparation for this video, I realized I was getting some type of tension and some type of stress in my right arm, especially in my wrist area and my palm, because I didn't have any more leverage or rest while I was drawing near the edge of the page. So I think that would be my only critique about it, the height and how much paper you have, which is not a bad critique at all. In my opinion, the more the merrier, but yeah, you can pull out the pages and it will be a solid fix to that issue. Now, after lining up everything using the Ohuhu fine liners, I can say that overall they're pretty good. The plastic is a little bit lighter than the other ones I've used before. They don't look extraordinarily super fancy and professional like my Copics or my Prismacolor markers. Not markers, but pens. But they do a really nice job. And I think that's kind of like the aesthetic of Ohuhus in general. It's open to everyone. It's supposed to look nice, but be welcoming to a variety of people, no matter what level they are as artists. And it's that aesthetic that is making it really popular for everyone. And other than the fact that it works really well, it looks really nice too. And so now at this point in the video, I'm testing out the skin tones. Now, before I made this video during my downtime, during my break time while I'm like watching an episode of something that I'm watching, I was setting up the colors on the notebook. Now, in each set, you're given kind of like this little tiny mini card that has the name of the markers and a little tiny box where you can fill in the color with. Now, the pages that they gave us to do that on are kind of like cardstock, but the quality of that page is not the same as the paper in the notebook. So, an advice that you've probably heard before by other people is always test your medium before you use them. So I knew, because I wanted to use this notebook for the Ohuhu markers, I decided to spend my time and redo the entire thing, but on the pages as well. Now, it took me a little bit of time because all of the markers were placed with no organization in mind. It was like looking like it's a mosh pit of colors. So I think that's another critique that I have for the brand. Whenever you get their markers, it's a bag and they just like put all the markers in one bag and it's all disorganized. I feel like it would be nicer if they organize it themselves, but at the same time, if you actually look at the order of the markers and their, in a sense, families according to Ohuhu, there are some weird outliers in their family groups. For example, it could be really nice, bright and pink, then all of a sudden purple. Like there's no gradient in between. Or it would be nice and purple, and then you have this really bright pink that you can see over there, I think on the far left. The families don't make sense. So I think, in my opinion, probably in the production process, Ohuhu made these markers or the other colors as an afterthought, so the color continuity of it in the families kind of do not make sense. So I personally would like it if they made sense in some way, but you know what, I get it if production wise it's not in order. But at least if you give us the markers or you're selling those markers, put them in order. And I think that's my major critique with it. Now, right now, my markers are still as disorganized as you see here, because I plan on doing it, I plan on using it for a future 3-marker challenge. I think after this experience, because all of these drawings that I'm coloring on, they are simple for a reason. They're simple because I wanted to just play around with the colors and see how they blend and how they mix together. But I do want to test them out for a more bigger illustration. And I like doing 3-marker challenges because it pushes me to create characters and do those type of illustrations as well. So I'm keeping them all jumbled up and disorganized because I think it would be the best way for me to pick random markers from the entire set of 120 markers. So that's why they're still disorganized. But I think after the 3-marker challenge, I might organize it again, unless Ohuhu is that cheap brand that will always be my 3-marker go-to challenge material thing. So that's at least my current situation with it. So let's go back to the art here. For the coat, I really wanted to be very multicolor. Originally, I wanted to be a rainbow coat, but I thought I want to really test these markers out, so I decided to just make them more of as a gradient. So I started with a nice deep red and tried to transition between different colors bit by bit and trying to blend these colors next to each other. Now there are different ways you can blend. A lot of people kind of do like the brush stroke way where you brush it out in one direction. I like to move in a circular motion. I've got this tool, I've got this skill from using Prismacolors. Prismacolors were the first marker set that I've ever got, and I think one of the compliments I've received as a Prismacolor artist was that I was able to blend these markers really well, because they thought if you use Prismacolors, you wouldn't be able to blend them as well as Copics, because Copics had the brush tip. And I told them, well, you can still blend, you just have to go in circular formations. And it's still totally possible. Does it use up maybe a little bit more ink? Maybe, I don't know. But it still has the same effect. And so I used both tools or skills. I used circular motions in blending and also brush straight strokes for blending as well. And both worked really nicely. I was also trying to look for any signs of wear paper, no wear and tear on the paper at all. I also tried to look for any kind of like pull up, in a sense, I think that's the word, where if you put the colors down, it kind of starts getting blotchy and kind of grainy. I tried to look for that too. Didn't really see that effect on these markers as well, which is super awesome. And I think that's why these markers have such a huge merit with young artists and for experienced artists. They are a happy answer to everyone's concerns when it comes to marker tools and using marker as a medium. And so, yeah, Ohuhu's pretty great. I'm not disappointed with them at all. And my critique and my complaints so far is just organization. It needs to be a bit more organized, but that's okay. Quality is still really great, so I'm not going to complain beyond that. Now, in contrast of the coat, going back to the artwork here, I made the workout gear to be completely black. I thought that was a good choice, and I really love the leggings. Once I put on the kind of like the gray overlay on top of the black, on top of the skin tone, it really felt like a professional level like workout gear. So it was a nice touch that I added, and I was really happy with those legs at the end. Now, with the shoes, I realized the coat was very bright, so I wanted to use more cooler colors for the shoes. And even though the style of it is really simple, I like where the colors are on these shoes, even though they're all very different. I think I like the color combination, but I noticed that because of all the cool colors being at the bottom, the rest of the body felt kind of like completely disconnected. So I tried to maybe give her cool colored eyes. That didn't really make an effect, so at some point in this video you're going to see me starting to put a little bit of like some type of background color to kind of pull this character design together. And when I did that too, I wanted to also test how far could I blend these colors and layer these colors without bleeding into the next page. And to, not my surprise, but to at the end you'll notice that it actually doesn't bleed at all. I'm very impressed with this paper. I think the only time it bled was, I think, when I was using one of the, I think the reds, but it's so small you can barely see it. Overall, these colors are what's called, they're not bleeding, and it's really, really nice. Now, can I use the other page on the other side of these drawings? No. That side, the other side, I cannot use ever again unless all I'm going to do with it is, what's it called? Sketch and do line art. That's it. I cannot create another illustration on the back side of the drawing, or it will bleed onto these wonderful ladies, and I don't want to do that. So with my 3 marker challenge, I think, because originally I thought, oh, I can do the sketching and do all the color testing on these pages. I don't know if I really want to do that. I like to preserve all of my art materials because I know how expensive they can be or how much money I've put into it. So I am always afraid to just use like this really nice quality paper for just sketching. I feel like it would be a waste. So I think I might do my sketching on a separate piece of paper and do the illustration in the notebook. But then I like, see, this is where I'm getting in a little hit with a little bit of a wall here, because when I do that, I like to take the final product and put it where the sketches are, so you see the process entirely from start to finish. And that would break this process if I did it, you know, in the notebook. Unless I don't do the notebook and I don't use the notebook, but you know, I'll figure it out. But so at this point, I'm using light skin tones, and like most light skin tone markers, they work really well and really nicely. They are blending very, very well, and I think I can, you know, honestly say that if you're interested in skin tones, the Ohuhu brand set is a really nice start. I think you'd be like, everyone would be happy if they had a set like this. Now granted, once again though, if you really want to delve into markers and you really want to invest in them, I would personally just get the Copic skin tones, even though they are a little bit more expensive. I would get them because at some point when they dry out, you can just get a refill, and that refill will refill, I think, 6 more markers. So in my opinion, you'll save more money in the long run and you'll use less plastic. And I think that's kind of my only reason why I would buy more Copics instead of cheaper brands like Ohuhu, even though Ohuhu is performing really well. I would get it because I don't want to buy more plastic. And if you're conscious about those things, which I think everyone should be, get Copics instead, especially if you want to invest into markers. If this is just more of a trial run and you just want to try it out, then get the cheaper brands. But if you're really wanting to invest in this, get Copics instead. Save the planet, you guys. Don't use as much plastic, okay? And so I think that's another critique that I have for it, and it has nothing, once again, it has nothing to do with performance. These markers are doing overall really, really well, and at some point I didn't realize that they weren't Copics, that they were a cheaper brand. I was really happy with them. So no complaints there. No complaints. Even the brush tip, I've experienced some brush tips where they're super soft and pretty bendable. There's no, what's it called? I can't find the word, but there's no level of stiffness that allows you to feel the pressure that you're putting onto the brush. But these ones have a nice level between pressure and fluidity, and it's a really, really honestly like a really good brush tip. Here's another critique that I have. I think it's because I really like how Prismacolors have a fine tip and then a broad tip, chisel tip on one end. I personally would have liked it if these markers had a more broad or chisel tip on one end instead of a fine tip. I personally think that I can get these fine line colors with the brush tip and the brush nib. So I think it would have been better if they just gave me something bigger. But of course, that's because of my experience using Prismacolors. I like a more broader tip instead. But I think that's another critique that I have. It would be a nib issue. But of course, I think in a recent video that I saw, someone was using the pastel markers and they had a broad tip on the pastel markers. So I maybe I got that wrong when I saw it, but looks like Ohuhu does have those nib options, but at least with the ones that I got, they didn't have that. So I think that's more of a personal critique more than, and a critique that a lot of people can resonate with. But if you're a person like me who likes that stuff, who likes more of a broad tip edge or end or nib, then you have been warned. And so to continue on with the process, I am now adding these little kind of like background colors for each character. And I think one of the major things that you can notice from this is that if you put it in a larger scale, you do kind of see the brush strokes, but it's not to a point where you feel like, oh, these markers are not a good, set, and they don't have very good quality. They still do pretty well, and in my opinion, with the Copics I've used as well, if you used a large background and tried to do the same thing, you would get a similar outcome. Once again, these markers did not bleed through, even though I did use a lot of colors, and they performed overall just really well. Now, the next character that I decided to color in is someone with also a little darker colors as well. I wanted to explore more darker tones and really play around with different skin tones as much as possible with these characters. I chose something that was a little bit more on the yellowish side because this color tends to be kind of muddy when you mix it with certain colors. I think I've used something very similar to this in another cheap marker not review, but process video that I did a while ago. I have no idea if I actually posted it, but I used these really cheap markers from Daiso one time, and they did really well. They were really light, so I could feel like there's barely any ink in it, but the color of the skin tone of this character is very similar to the brown that I got from that set that from Daiso. And when I was blending these colors together, I started with this, the more yellowish skin tone, and then added a little bit more warmth to it as a shaded section. I didn't use any like purple for this one because I feel like I didn't set it up very well. I didn't leave any empty space to get the purple to pop out a little bit more, and I felt like the purple would just get kind of muddied into the process, and I really didn't want to do that. So I only put a little bit of it here and there, but as you can tell, it doesn't really do much. It doesn't warm up the skin tone. It doesn't add any type of cool like cooling effect to the skin tone. It just adds a little bit more gradient to it. So didn't set up for it very well, but it still added some dimension to it, but I feel like you can probably pick a different color than the purple that I used. Now, this color to use is a pretty intense color, and I didn't plan this outfit very well. I kind of just felt like I want to use blues and greens for this one, so I wanted to see how it would look like. So in a sense, it's like this, the dress is a very rich, deep navy blue, and she's wearing some type of fish-netted green overlay on top, which does not make sense in my opinion as an outfit, but if you've ever worn something like this before, then great. That means it's not very outrageous, but I feel like it's kind of outrageous. But as you can tell, even though I did the overlay with the other teal color, it did nothing with the blue. The intensity of the blue was so strong, and that has nothing to do with the markers itself. It's not meaning that the markers perform poorly, it means that I picked really bad colors. So out of all of the 4 characters, even though I think the red-headed character is probably the weakest in design, the color choices I picked for this character with the teal hair, just it did not work very well, and I need a little bit more practice on that. But it's exploring the colors, and I did want to use as much colors as possible with this, so you'll learn as you go along. But also at the same time, because I've realized that this marker, this purple, dark blue, navy, intense intensely rich color was too rich. I knew I couldn't blend it with anything else, so I just took the same color and then I added a little bit more layers to it on top. And that's once again a really nice quality of the Ohuhu so far, is that it does layer very well and it adds a little bit more depth and intensity to it. Now, in contrast to all of these really nice blues, I used a yellow, something bright and something loud, and I think that is something that does work well when you pick colors. If you have a lot of cool tones, use something that it will be contrasting against it so that those really nice cool tones can really pop out as well. So for the last character, I saw this really highlighted pink color, and I said, you know what, I've been playing with some muted colors here and there, time to use some intense colors next. So I went full on out with this hair. I went straight to the hot pink, and I wanted to add a little bit kind of like a cotton candy feel, so I started to add a little bit of purple and started to blend those together. Now, they didn't actually blend very well. If you looked really closely, you can definitely still see this the brush strokes and the streak marks, but the color combination is really pretty. I think once the purple started to dry on top of the pink, it really provided a really nice cool tone. But unfortunately, once again, it didn't blend as nice as I'd like it to be. It didn't have a it didn't have a soft blend across for those highlighted sections. If you look far away, it looks really nice, but if you get really close to the details and the nitty-gritty of it, it's kind of messy. And it could be the fact that I chose the wrong colors, or maybe I didn't blend further enough, but I think it could have been better. Now, once I was done with the hair, I realized I'm not going to do anything more with this. I feel like I'm going to destroy it at that point. I'm now just filling in the rest of the colors. For her, I chose to do a light skin tone again as well, and gave her a little bit of freckles. I thought it would be a nice cute touch. And as contrast for her, for a background, I used blue because her hair is pink. So here I am, I'm using the skin tones, and at this point I realized I have no idea which markers go to where now, because there are duplicates with the skin tones and the 120 set, and I realized that near the end of this I was just placing whatever skin tone colors I could find in the skin tone bag. So at this point, the colors in my skin tone bag and my 120 bag is probably they're probably mixed up at this point, but I did kind of put them together in the right color family. It's just disorganized. So once again, my main critique with Ohuhu, it's the organization. There's no organization and it bothers me. But you know, if it has nothing to do with the performance of the markers, then it's your choice on how you'd like to organize your markers then. These markers in all are great. So if you ever are considering in getting yourself a marker set, look to Ohuhu. It's a really good alternate set. The design is really nice. You can stack the caps on top of each other, which is a really solid plus. The color variety is pretty good. Like, I'm happy with it, but granted, I did get the 120. So if you're asking what if I get a smaller set, then I have no idea. I have so many colors now that I'm not complaining with the color quantity and options that Ohuhu has. I think they did an excellent job so far, and I can tell that they're adding more to it as their popularity continues to grow. So that's that. I have no idea if they have a white Ohuhu pen. I didn't check for this. I had no idea if they did. So as a little bit of a highlighter near the end, I used my white Jelly Roll Sakura pen to add a little bit of highlights on top, and they worked very nice on top of the Ohuhu as well. So I think at this point, I'll just give you guys a little bit of update on my life. It is now 2021. 2020 was a really rough year, but honestly, it was a really bad year for everyone. But 2021 is so far being, pretty good. It's pretty okay. I do want to be more artistically active, but I'm realizing now that sometimes my day job just gets in the way a little bit, and that's okay. I really love my day job. That's the best thing of like actually doing something that you enjoy doing as a job. Even though it gets in the way of art sometimes, it's totally fine. But other than that, I've been kind of like separating myself from fan art in a way. I created a new Instagram, which is Draw with Atomic Mango Mom. You can find me with that title. It's draw.with.Atomic Mango Mom, and there I'll post only original artwork and 3 marker challenges and everything. And anything related with fan art in any way will be placed into my main account, which is Atomic Mango Mom. I did this because Instagram has been very heavy right now on my shoulders, and the algorithm is constantly changing, and I don't want to stress about appeasing to the algorithm anymore. So if I draw fan art, I'll post on the Atomic Mango Mom page. If I don't, then no worries. If I do original stuff, then I don't get to feel bad about myself drawing original when the numbers for that on Instagram is really low compared to my fan art. So I separated that a few months ago, or maybe 2 months ago, and I really like the change. I've been more open to drawing my personal characters again, my OCs, and if you guys want to see more about them too, just let me know in the comments below. I love talking about them, I don't mind making a video about these characters. But at this point, we are coming to a close of the video. Here are the 4 random characters I made just to test out these Ohuhu markers. And at the end of the day, or at the end of the process, Ohuhu is a solid choice to get. This is once again not a complete review on the marker brand itself, but as someone who's dabbled with different types of markers, if I had Ohuhu as an option growing up, I would have gotten them before Prismacolors. But and that's just the honest truth. But that's basically it, everybody. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys found any type of insight from my comments and my semi-review on these markers. I'm really happy that I got them, even though they were kind of an expensive buy because I did buy a lot of them. But if you are a beginner and you want something that's cheap and like these markers, these are a solid pick. I return back to that comment. It's a solid pick to get. But yeah, thank you guys so much for the support, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!